So what is up, everyone? Looks like today's reveal is on Kagros, so let's go over what they showed us today. So we get a look at Dragonic Overlord Break Ride. So when rode upon, get 10,000 power, and if your Vanguard is an Overlord, well, that's kind of sad. So they limited the Dragonic Overlord Break Ride to just Overlords, period. So that sucked. Guess no creative ideas around this unit, sadly. You have to only play this with Overlord units. So, effect is, when this unit hits a rear guard, counterblast 1, discard 1 card from your hand to stand this unit and draw 2 cards. So, nice +1 at the end of this break ride. So, you pitch 1 to draw 2. So, that's nice. That's plussing. That's a good plus. I mean, it's not like Nemain plussing, but... Actually, I don't even think that's really a plus. I think that's just drawing 2 cards. You still have to discard a card from your hand. It's just a Nemain as a restander. Anyways, so they show Dragonic Overlord. Okay. Eternal Bringer Griffon. When placed, discard a grade 3 from your hand to add a Dragonic Overlord from your deck to your hand. Know that Griffon can only search the Dragonic Overlord, guys, so keep that in mind when using Eternal Bringer Griffon. He's mostly here to search out your Break Ride or an old school Dragonic Overlord. So now let's begin today's discussion on this Break Ride in general. With Dragonic Overlord, there is a thing going around with naming. And by naming, there's a certain thing that went on in TCG, you can only run 4 of each G3. So we have normal Dragonic Overlord and we have Break Ride. Now obviously if you run 4 of the Break Ride, you can't run 4 of the old school. Maybe you can split it up to 2 and 2 since you can actually search this with Eternal Bringer Griffon. So technically you'll always have your Break Ride at the end of the day. But this effect, when it hits a rear guard, turns any of your Overlord units into the end effect. Where in Vanguard 0, we always attack with the end on a rear guard, and we CB2, Persona Blast, and Restand. So that's the whole point with the Break Ride in general. Now, could you use this Break Ride with the end? Yes, it's technically CB3. It's going to be CB3, and by the end of the turn, you will plus like 1 card since you're pitching a card, which is the Persona Blast, then you draw 2. So you got 1+ out of that. And then you're going to discard a card, and you get another 1+ after that. You're discarding 1 and drawing more. So that's where I guess more of the plussing will come in with Overlord in general. So, but the thing is, with Overlord being only limited to Overlords, you can't really do any mix-ups with your Kagero Break Ride units in general. Overlord is an Overlord deck. Believe it or not, we haven't been shown this, but we haven't even seen a double rare, and I'm going to assume the double rare is going to be one of the G2 units that came in set 17 that said return an Overlord to your deck to retire something. Now, obviously, they're not going to let a unit have that ability. It's going to be remove an Overlord from your drop zone to retire a unit. So there's going to be that little like shindig when it comes to playing with Dragonic Overlord and his Break Ride. Now, you could break ride this on top of this if you want to. You're technically doing a retire on an intercept for a CB1 since you're technically not losing a attack with said unit. So if you break ride Dragonic Overlord on top of Dragonic Overlord, you pretty much keep your break ride turn, but again, you're plussing, again, you will get the effect to draw cards, and as long as you're killing the intercept game and you hit a trigger, your other units can actually swing because you're giving them triggers and their columns will hit 21k. So he's a very interesting unit. I mean, you can obviously multiply your break right on top of him. Right on top of him with him again. Right on top of him again if it comes down to it. So, lo and behold, since this effect went through like a tiny change, I guess, maybe it's different from the TCG. TCG, I don't know if it was like, discard 2, but in this game it's counterblast 1. Discard 1 card, and then you get a draw and stand the unit. Versus like anything else, but... yeah, I mean, with the end, you can kill 2 units, kill 2 intercepts if you run the end. Obviously, you possibly are. And you'll be plussing like a good amount of cards. That's going to be like 4 cards drawn from the deck at the end of the day. So that's really good. The only thing we need to see at the end of all of this is going to be Rebirth. Because Rebirth is supposed to be the new powerhouse unit, hopefully, for Kageros. Now, are you going to run the novella package? Yeah, I think it's going to be high up in the air if you're going for the, Overlord packaging, since Overlord actually has some more units that relate to Overlord. So I digress on that. That's going to be up in the air at the end of the day. So between this, which would be better? DDD or this? I would say both play their roles at the end of the day. Where DDD can be any Kagro break ride versus Overlord has to be a specific name break ride. It's really up in the air. I guess it depends on how you see your games. Are you got them to 4th damage? They only played 1 intercept. Your Kagro is going to restand after swinging at the 1 intercept they placed when they were at 4th damage because they have enough PGs to live. Like stuff like that. But it's going to depend, honestly, on how this unit will play his turns out. Now, as you all know, we all know what Rebirth does. Rebirth locks 5 units, and he gets to restand after, he attacks the Vanguard. But in order to attack the Vanguard, you have to clear the intercepts. So locking 5 without any retire whatsoever isn't going to help you. But like I said, since Kagros is technically going to get a G2 that revolves around Overlord recycling or removal, where you remove Overlord to actually retire a unit. Maybe they want you to do certain plays like that. Maybe if they had 2 intercepts and you need Rebirth effect to give you that restand ability, you would use said G2 Overlord unit to retire 1 intercept, and then you would attack an intercept with your Rebirth to restand them, and your Rebirth now has 2 attacks on the Vanguard as a 31k column. So there's that. Obviously, I'm expecting Rebirth might, if they ever feel like updating Rebirth, maybe he becomes a crit. He gets a crit effect because it's going to be tricky. I mean, you're locking 5, but you're guaranteeing 2 attacks, so I don't want to consider 2 attacks an actual crit play, because technically you're trying to deal 2 damage, but in reality, you're going to be swinging your opponent at 4th damage, you get pushed to 5, and then you swing again, then it's 0. Because at the end, Rebirth can't really finish the game even at 5th damage. Well, he could, but again, what's the point? What if you could just get 3 attacks on the Vanguard versus 2 attacks? Again, certain types of situations like this. I mean, what you could do is, obviously, until we know what Rebirth is going to do, you can still use Dauntless Drive Dragon with Rebirth. I mean, you won't get the cross ride number, but you'll have a 31k beat stick that can get 3 guarantee attacks on the Vanguard if you retire every intercept in the front row. So that's 3 guaranteed attacks hitting Vanguard. Period. That's the whole point about locking 5. You're locking 5 to restand, but if you break ride Dauntless, there's your 3rd attack. The whole point of the lock 5 is because now you don't have to worry about a trigger. Your Vanguard's going to be able to swing the magic number twice because of 21k, and once they hit a trigger, they get to 21. Fine. You hit them again with the 21, it's over. So that's another thing that Rebirth is kind of going to bring to Zero's format. The only trick to really pulling them off effectively is going to be getting rid of some of the front rows. So you can pull off the 3-hit combo. So, I mean, if I had to really choose between 2 break rides, I think I would still go Dauntless Drive Drag just because, A, we can pretty much kill an entire intercept row, number 1. We could. With our G2s and lock our G2 so we have our intercepts. I mean, the whole point of Rebirth is going to be you're already hitting a magic number, so the other units' numbers don't matter at the end of the day. You're going to get 3 attacks, period, because he doesn't need a hit to restand. He just needs to, I think, just attack the Vanguard to restand since you locked 5 units. So it's not as crappy for the Zero formation. You just have to make sure you put your G2s in the front before the locking at the end of the day. So with that being said, I mean, it's going to be up in the air when it comes to the break ride, this or the other guy, but both can play their roles. I mean, this with the end play legit draws you 4 cards. You get an entire new hand, pretty much. Persona Blast, plus the discard 1. And then it's 3 attacks on the Vanguard. So once you do the end play, you're guaranteeing yourself at least 3 attacks on the Vanguard, depending on the damage count where your opponent is at. Obviously, depending on triggers, again, you give those to your other units that will be at 1400 or something like that. You get them to 21k columns, so on and so forth. That's where you would go from there. So Rebirth, he's up in the air. He's not too bad. He's good for what he's trying to show us, but we need to see how Rebirth will either function with this, because if Rebirth doesn't have a good functionality with the brake ride, obviously people will steer more towards DDD because it's legit 4 attacks. It can guarantee 4 attacks on final damage, so it's good. So that's why I feel like, you know, you stirred more towards that like functionality with these units. So I don't know where we're gonna go until we know where Rebirth's at, but right now, I like this for the end, because again, you can get pretty much retire 2 intercepts, and then you have all your units try to attack the Vanguard, and it's good in that sense because you're pitching one again, you're doing a little filter, pitch 1, draw 2. But yeah, I would have to see how Rebirth is going to play out with this brake ride. If it doesn't really give us what we need and is lock 5 with no other effect besides the restand, I might just keep it at, you know, Dauntless, and that's all we need. Just to, and Dauntless got buffed to discard too, so might as well use it. So that's all we have to talk about today, guys. Thanks for watching. We are done talking about this until they reveal something news on Friday or tomorrow morning. We'll see, but we will definitely be reviewing it for sure. Thanks for watching our discussion. Y'all be good. I'll see you all another time.